Welcome to my Sitecore Diaries. This is the series Sitecore 10 .NET Developer Certification Exam. I'm continuing with the last video. In last video we have seen Sitecore Headless JSS. So this is the next part of that and the seventh part of this series. I'm Jitendra Ghanekar. I'm a Sitecore architect. If you are not subscribed to the channel, please subscribe to the channel. It will motivate me to do more such videos. Please click on a bell icon to get a latest update. If you like the video, please click on a like button, share it with your friends, and please comment and provide your feedback. So in this video, what we are going to see is a headless architecture. In that we will see what is JSS rendering SDK, what is .NET Core rendering SDK. Then we will see layout service, dictionary service, import service, media handler. We'll see what is GraphQL, rendering engine, NODE.JS architecture, and how does a headless support page editor. So these are the points which we are going to cover in this video, and as I said in the last video, we are not going into the detail. We are just trying to cover the things which will help us to clear the Sitecore 10 certification exam. For each topic we can have a separate video that we will do and we will do the advanced Sitecore videos. But for now, we will be concentrating on the Sitecore 10 developer certification exam. In the next part we will see the practice question. So this headless JSS is divided into three parts, and this is the second part. So let's start. So let's see headless architecture first. So Sitecore headless module provide a suite of REST and GraphQL API endpoints that returns a JSON formatted Sitecore content. So you have a REST API as well as the GraphQL, which you can use to which provides you the Sitecore content in the JSON format. Okay, so Sitecore headless basically support two SDKs. First is the Sitecore JavaScript rendering SDKs. We call it as a JSS, which supports your JavaScript framework like Angular, Vue framework, Vue.js, Next.js, and the React. And also it supports the Sitecore ASP.NET rendering SDK. Okay, other than it's .NET Core rendering SDK. So other than this, also user can use their own framework, but these are the two which is supported by the Sitecore. Okay. Then the Sitecore headless service, it has a two part of SDKs. Like as I said, it support .NET Core rendering and SDK renderings SDK. So for supporting both the things, there are total 6 services which helps to provide the content in the JSON format. Those are like for .NET Core rendering SDK, we have a rendering engine, media handler, GraphQL, layout service. These are the things which are used by the .NET Core rendering SDK. Whereas on top of this, there are dictionary service and import service, which is also used by the JSS rendering SDK. Okay, and this is your headless service, and that is work and you do have the Sitecore instance. So it can be XP or XM, where user or content authors can manage their content. So this is a high level Sitecore headless architecture. Okay, so it basically if you see the current now whatever in this video, whatever we are going to see is completely this design only, or this model only. Okay, we will not be going detailed of SDK and JSS. That is individual thing which we have to do, but I will be sharing some links which will help you to understand those. But these are the things which we need to which contains the headless architecture. Let's see layout service. I think the layout service is the most important topic for the certification. Okay, and in general also layout service is very important. So what is a layout service? Sitecore layout service is a REST endpoint which provides a data to your JSS app. You use the Sitecore layout service client to communicate with a layout service, and you use the Sitecore rendering engine to render the content. Okay, so this layout service basically decouples your layouts and rendering. Okay, so your renderings are separated out with the layer, which provides the layout details. So this enables to render a Sitecore component in your chosen framework. So you will get a details of the how the page is going to be rendered with the content. So that will help you to in the JSON format that you can utilize in the JavaScript framework to display the content. Okay, and we will need the Sitecore layout service client to communicate with the layout. So for that you need to get a client, Sitecore service client libraries from the NuGet package. Okay, then you have two endpoints which supported which provided by the layout service. First is the layout of the item, which provide the item details, and then the placeholder, which provides the placeholder detail. Okay, so this is layout of an item. This is your endpoint, Sitecore /API/layout/render/config. So we will see what if this config is. Then you have item is equal to path. Okay, so item path SC language. So let's see what are the each items. Okay, config is the name of the layout service configuration. So we have a layout service configuration, so that config name is here. Okay, then path is the path of an item. Language is which language version you want the data. API key configuration for the layout service. So each service is configured with the API key for the authentication, and then you have a tracking which will tell you whether you want to track the you want to enable the analytics. So that is your tracking. Okay, so overall these are the two endpoints, and these are the configuration. Config is basically the name of your layout service. Generally it is JSS. Okay, then your path of item, language version, API key configured for the layout service, and the tracking. I'm not covering going in detail of this each language or how it is used. Okay, and how do we install it. Okay, that will be a separate it will be a long video. Okay, and those will be a detailed things which we need to do, and this can be done with a practical example only. So as I said earlier, we are just concentrating on the few concept and the pointers which can help us to cover the questions in the Sitecore certification exam. There is a request and response model for the layout service. That is also I'm not covering. So I will be sharing the links. If you want to go in detail, then you can go through the detail. I will be sharing those links in the last video of our this series for this section for a Sitecore Headless, where I will be giving all the links at the end when we have a practice question. Okay, let's move on now. So let's see how does layout service works. Okay, so let's take an example. Sitecore API/layout render JSS item/about. So you want about page. Okay, from your JSS app. Okay, so how does it work? There are 5 steps. Okay, first is an MVC controller response and pass the item/about parameter. Okay, so it's checked /about parameter. It's passed that item. The layout service perform an item lookup based on the item parameter, which takes into the account the start item with the context site, and the logic matches standard Sitecore URL handling. Item GUIDs are also allowed. So it's the same thing what we know as a Sitecore developer. How does the URL gets resolved? Okay, so it gets the item, and then it look up for that item, and we find the item details. Okay, from the context. So when you see about it just it happens all the things like we have in the standard standard ASP.NET MVC Sitecore MVC. Similarly, you get that details, that URLs. Okay, and GUID also allowed instead of item path. After resolving the item, layout service utilize the placeholder data in the layout and rendering definition items to render the item to an object structure, making use of a MVC render placeholder pipeline. By using Sitecore MVC pipelines, the layout service output accounts for a personalization rule and content testing in the item layout definition. Okay, now this is also same thing what happens in the Sitecore MVC. It resolves the layout service utilize the placeholder data in the layout, so it finds the layout, what is the placeholder used and what are the renderings are used, whatever the rendering definition. It's create the object structure. It utilize basically a MVC render placeholder pipeline. Okay, by using Sitecore MVC pipeline, it contains all the details. Now it's the same thing what happens in your Sitecore MVC. Okay, now the fourth step is it's something which is different than what happens in Sitecore MVC. Instead of rendering MVC view, so what happens in MVC view, that you get the detail of the layout service and then it renders the MVC view. But instead of that, what it does is it runs a custom JavaScript serializer takes the components data. So whatever data is there that taken by the site JavaScript serializers, and it serializes that data into the JavaScript object. So basically JSON is getting created. Okay, so it's create a JavaScript object. So that's this fourth point is a different than what we have in MVC. At MVC what it does, Sitecore does it renders the MVC view, whereas in the layout service it's create a JavaScript object. And the fifth step is then it output is assembled. So it complete output is assembled in the JSON format and that JSON is get written. So this is how layout service overall works. Okay, let's see now what is a Sitecore layout request model. So it is a data transfer object that supports reading and writing arbitrary properties. So layout service client send these properties to the layout service in the query string format. So it is basically a data transfer object, DTO, which holds those data. So it contains the some get and set properties, like we have a API key, so you can get and set the API key. Path, you can get and set the item path. You can have a site name, you can have a language. So if you see the sample example, like you can have a request.api gets the API key value and request.api key value sets the API key value. It is basically a request object for the layout service which is used by layout service client to send it to the layout service. Whereas we have a Sitecore layout response model. Okay, so Sitecore layout response model, it is a strongly typed model designed to allow navigation down to the field level. It is a response of the layout service. So there are different methods which we are having. Request method, which provides you the data related to Sitecore layout request. Metadata will provide the metadata such as the HTTP response. Then you have a content. Okay, so this is an important thing. So content will contain the deserialized JSON response. Okay, which has the which uses the type like route and component. Route where the maps to the route object in the JSON response written by the layout service. Okay, and the component which maps to the object in the list value of a placeholder. Okay, so these are the two types, and inside that this type you have a high field renderer. Okay, which maps the actual field entries in the route as well as the component. And then you have a I field, which is the type of various implementation of a fields, like you have a you have a fields like a checkbox field, content list field, number field. So for those type mapping you have a I field type. Okay, then you have errors. The errors will provide you the any error if you encounter while handling the Sitecore layout request or bundling the layout response object. So it will give you an error if there is any error, and if has error will tell you that whether that object has an error. So it will, if its value is true, then it has an error, so it will have the value in the errors. Otherwise the list will be empty. As I told you that I am not going in detail of each topics, so there are few topics which I have skipped related to the layout service. Also I have kept few few topics. So I'm just sharing you the few links which I think if you get a time you can check these links also. First is output caching for the layout service, then configure placeholders, then you have populate the placeholder for the field layouts, configure the Sitecore layout service to output HTML for MVC rendering, and then extending the layout service. Okay, let's see on the browser itself how it looks. This side. Okay, so this is the implementing output caching for the layout. So this explain how to apply the output caching for the layout. If you see here, it is somewhat similar to the Sitecore MVC HTML caching. Okay, you can go through this point, this link. Configure placeholder. So it basically explains how to define your placeholder for your layout service. Okay, so these are the steps which is given. Then the next one is how to populate the placeholder fields. Again, they have explained how to do that here in this link. Then configure the Sitecore layout service to output HTML for a MVC rendering. So this is the link for that. Okay, it given the example also here. Okay, there's a script and then how to do that. Okay, then the extending the layout service. So there are how we can extend the layout service. Okay, there are few more links within that. Okay, and then you have a security consideration. What kind of a security consideration they have taken care. So I will recommend you to go through all these links. I'm not covering here. Okay, but if you get a time while preparing the certification, you just visit to these links also. Let's see now the other services. Dictionary service. Okay, as the name suggests, it serves the dictionary. So this is used for a multi-language support to provide the different static phrases in the requested language. Okay, so you have a dictionary in the Sitecore. If you want to get the output of that dictionary, then dictionary service is used. Its endpoint is like Sitecore API/JSS dictionary, the name of your app and the language. Like here ESMX, the example which I am showing you is language is ESMX and app is a My Rendering app. It is returning the dictionary which contains the values like copyright, home, star, bootstrap for the ESMX. So it is basically as you see, it is returning all the dictionary values in the JSON format. Next one is the import service. In previous video, the first part of a Headless, we have seen what is a code first approach, okay, and the disconnected mode. In the code first approach and the disconnected mode, the JSS developer or the UI framework developer develop the application in the disconnected mode by using the Sitecore proxies, YML file or JS file. Okay. So import service is basically when you want to connect or you want to move that application to the Sitecore. That time you import all those content into the Sitecore. So for that purpose, import service is used. So it is importing the data from the CM only. I mean, you are installing the all the proxy files, which is YML files, which get converted into the templates and the item. Okay, that is happening on the CMS. That's why it is only available on the CM server and it is disabled on the CD server. Okay, so import services are used to import your JSS application built in the code first approach or disconnected mode to the Sitecore. It creates the necessary item infrastructure in the Sitecore to run the app when it's connected. So when you upload that, when you import the application in the Sitecore, it creates the necessary infrastructure, that is templates and the item. Okay, it runs as a service endpoint on the Sitecore CM server that accepts the deployments from the JSS app, and this service import only Sitecore artifact. So it only import the Sitecore artifact, not the build artifact. So not the code which it is taking, it is only the Sitecore artifact it's pick, and by default it is disabled on the CD server. So next one is the media handler. So as name suggests, it handles the media. So media handler supports configuring how Sitecore handles the media request. On content delivery server, in the web.config in handler node, you can add the configuration in case you have not deployed your application using the Sitecore JSS module, Sitecore Headless module. If you install with Sitecore JSS module, it will automatically get added. Okay, there are other things also, right? You can whitelist the parameter which is used, like height and width also. Okay, so this is media handler which is handling the media. Then GraphQL. Okay, Sitecore GraphQL API hosts your data and present it through the GraphQL queries. Okay, so GraphQL is designed to be a generic GraphQL service platform, not simply a contain API, and can serve or aggregate the data that you can access from the Sitecore server and present it via the GraphQL query. So basically, GraphQL endpoint understand the GraphQL language. Okay, it is like a querying, like you have in Solar, you have a Solar query. Similarly, in GraphQL you have a GraphQL queries. Okay, it has a predefined the request and response format. This is handles the it is handled by the its endpoint is handled by only by the single controller, and there is no code is required to define any new endpoint. It uses SSI API keys for the authentication purpose. Okay, so GraphQL I'm not going in detail. However, I'm just sharing this link which will give you the example how the queries are made in the GraphQL. Okay, let's see this link. Okay, so this is the link which I will be sharing in the description, which gives you an example of GraphQL. Okay, which give you a query example like get an item by ID or path. So this is a query. If you see, there is a specific language, that's a GraphQL language, and it will result you the result like this. Similarly, you have a get item layout for URL. So similarly, there are many queries given in this link. You can go through it. You can utilize on your project also if you are using the GraphQL. Okay, so this link I'm sharing in the description. You can have a look on this, and it will help you. I'm not sure about the certification, but if you are using the GraphQL in your project, it's definitely going to help you. And in case there is any question in the certification which are related to this query and the result, it is also will help us. Okay, so I'm sharing this link in the description. You can go through these queries. Okay, so let's see rendering engine now. So rendering engine renders content and the layout data returned by Sitecore layout service from a Sitecore. Okay, so there are two engines which support in the Sitecore. One is the NODE.JS. Okay, so it is the JSS application built in Angular, React and Vue. So it supports the JSS application built in Angular, React and Vue. The pros and cons we will see for the Node.js. It is simple to set up, install Node.js on the Sitecore server and add the Node executable to the path, then it will start working. So it is easy to set up. You do not have to manage a Node.js instance manually. Okay. The cons is you have a limited customization option of a Node.js, startup, profiling, debugging. You have a limited options. You have a limited control over the pooling and clustering. You need to install Node.js on the Sitecore server. So this is very important. So you have to install that Node.js on the wherever your Sitecore server is. You must deploy JSS app artifact to the Sitecore server. So JSS apps also you have to install within the Sitecore JSS, and it doesn't support ASP.NET Core and the Next.js. So that is the cons for the Node.js. Whereas the second one is the HTTP rendering engine. It is used for the Next.js and the ASP.NET Core. The pros is you have a full control over the rendering host management, like startup, pooling, clustering, profiling, debugging and so on. You can control it with the help of a tunneling software like Inchork. Front-end developers can test the experience editor integration by using their local headless apps for server-side rendering. This is possibly by dynamically setting up the rendering host URL in the experience editor with the help of sc_http rendering URL query string parameter. With the help of this sc_http rendering URL, they can test the experience editor integration. So that is very useful for the front end. So I think this is the most the critical thing in this rendering. For JSS application, you do not need to have a Node.js on the Sitecore server. So if you are using a JSS application, there is no need to install the Node.js on the Sitecore server, as like in the Node.js rendering. You choose where to host the rendering host. You do not have to deploy artifact of the application created within the JSS to the CM server. So whatever the artifact, whatever the build you are creating in the JSS, that is do not need to deploy on the Sitecore. Cons is you must control the rendering host yourself. So you have to control the host, your rendering host yourself, and ensure it is awake and it is always available. So these are the two rendering engines. We will go in detail each one, not in that deep detail, but we will check the things in the Node.js and the HTML rendering engine in the next slides and the next videos. Let's see how Node.js architecture works. Okay, so first is the request is sent to the Sitecore. Okay, in Sitecore we have the ASP.NET and core renderings and the Sitecore. Okay, so page context get executed. It serializes the data source field. Then the placeholder data is get from then it runs the MVC render placeholder pipeline. So all those things which is happening on the normal ASP.NET MVC, all the things which happens there. Okay, it collects it has all the data related to the request, all the data related to your item. Then it doesn't instead of rendering the MVC view, it is given to the custom JS controller, okay, which bundles JS data, that is a content data, and JS bundles, that is a code, your JavaScript code or JS script code, and it is given to the JS view engine, okay, in the Node.js server. Okay, so here what happens is Node.js collect the data and runs the JS bundle and provide the HTML response, and that HTML response given back to the browser. So this is how the Node.js handles all the requests. Node.js rendering handles all the requests in the Sitecore headless architecture. Now let us see how does the experience ASP.NET Core plus Sitecore works. Okay, so you have a front-end website which makes a customer website. Okay, it is built in the ASP.NET Core. Okay, so you visitor request to the customer website. This website is called the Sitecore APIs. Okay, the Sitecore, which is instance calling the Sitecore instance. It returns the data in the JSON format, and that JSON format data is its render on the customer website, and that response is given back to the website visitor. This is how front-end website work. And how does the backend, I mean the experience editor work? So you have an experience editor, you have a Sitecore authors. The Sitecore instance calls your make a request to the customer website, and it returns give you the response. Okay, and then it renders the experience editor. So high level, I know it is very short, I'm telling you, but it's a very high level. This is how it works. Okay, for now we are stopping here only. In the next video we will be seeing more about the rendering engine. Okay, we will see rendering option parameters. We'll see core.net tag helpers, and around 25 practice questions. Also I will be sharing 4 to 5 YouTube links and also few blog links which will help you to clear these concepts. So we are stopping here. If you have any question, please connect me on the Gmail. This is my Gmail ID. You can connect me on LinkedIn. This is my LinkedIn ID. If you like the video, please click on the like button. Please share with your friends. Please comment on the video to provide a feedback. There are almost 70 to 80% of audience who is watching these videos are not subscribed. So please subscribe to the channel. It will motivate me to do more such videos. Please click on a bell icon to get a latest update of the video. There is no timeline I have set up for all this video. As I'm getting the time, I'm uploading the video. You might miss out those videos. So please click on a bell icon so that you get a notification whenever I will upload the video. Thanks for watching. Thank you.